Wonder what this is. Love it when it's so easy.
Yeah, audio problems should always be that easy.
They really should. Yeah, I'm even gonna move it more in case. I gotta remember I have easy cuts because I have no video. I can interrupt with aplomb if anybody needs to go to the washroom or anything like that. All right, Nick Leffler, saxophonist extraordinaire, Tyrant Jazz Fest aficionado, director of a nonprofit now called Steelhead Sound.
Yeah, all new, man.
How are you feeling about the Vancouver Public Library Central Branch booth-sized room Rhythm Changes podcast recording experience here?
Close and personal, baby. Let's just sit on each other's laps and get this thing going, man.
And it's absolutely the best to do it in the dog days of summer when it's hot, right?
Well, I mean, we got decent air control in here at the moment.
It's not bad today.
I'm
I've been here when it's pretty bad. We kept the fan on. I think one time I was such a purist that I turned the fan off because I was too worried about audio. I'm long past
NPR will over here. You know, what are we...
I'm long past that point. But you've been tuned into what I've been doing at Rhythm Changes for a long time. So I just want to say I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
man, happy to check all of that stuff out. I always kind of skim through the emails when they come through and check out what's going on and listen to all of the main feed podcasts when I get a chance.
You have some stuff coming up that we got to shout out. The main event, Saturday, August 29th, the Summer Run Jazz Fest presented by Steelhead Sound.
Yeah. So we... Well, let's just say I'm a bit of a way out over my skis is the way I've been describing it to everybody because I'm brand new in the whole producing
You're getting
space.
into it.
Yeah, and, I don't know why I was thinking that it would be a good idea before we're established to do, 5 bands on a single day, but here we are. The planning has thankfully worked out fairly well. We got everything sort of tickety-boo other than, figuring out our numbers for beer purchasing kind of thing and marketing, right? That's the real last piece to figure out. So I've been...
You've been deep into it.
Yeah, deep into it.
It's a good place to be, though. It's a fun place to be. It's exciting.
Well,
maybe not always fun.
Not always fun, no. But, I wish I could put some names to the quotes, but you always hear the famous one being that if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. So let's just take that uncomfortability as proof that we're growing a little bit.
Well, you mentioned the bands. I'll say who those 5 bands are for this event coming up. The 5 bands that you booked, we can get into who's in each of them, maybe or maybe not. But for expediency's sake, we have the Brad Turner Quartet, which isn't like the 90s lineup or anything, but this is kind of a newer group by Brad.
With Joe on the drums.
Yeah,
right?
Joe
Otherwise,
Poole on
it's
drums.
the same band,
with Bruno and Andre, yes, that's true. Then you've got Jimmy James Sextet, you've got Jillian Lebec Trio, Chris Fraser leading a trio, and then Dean Thiessen's Quartet, Strange Friends Quartet.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited to have all of them, helping out with this. It helps when you know the scene a little bit too, right? It makes it a little easier when you're starting something new to be able to basically ask friends, hey, do you want to do this?
You know who you want to call.
Exactly. Yeah, and you kind of... I had originally tried to bully Mike W.T. Allen into writing some small group project because I was trying to think like, okay, what areas of the scene would have like slightly different audiences that we can try and tap, right? But, that guy's busier than stink and everything he does with Space Elevator and his other projects taken up all the time. So like we were, a few months out and I'm like, hey, do you have your lineup? And he's like, dude, I haven't even written any music. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then, thankfully Chris was good enough to... fill that gap.
Yeah. One spot of 5. So venue is the Meldyhan Hall at St. James Community Square.
Absolutely. Yeah, over in Kitts. I want to say 10th and Blenheim.
Yeah, something like that.
I always forget the side. One of the B-side streets there. It's out past McDonald before Alma. Not quite as deep as the old cellar.
I smiled right away when you mentioned beer purchasing, knowing that was your venue, because you may not know that... Vez and I got married in that space.
Is that right?
And one time in 2018, we had to wrangle how much beer we were going to bring into that space for our wedding. So it was a familiar theme that you ended up mentioning there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, thankfully, I didn't have to do too much of the work on the the permitting side of things. This is where it helps to have a lawyer on your board of directors. Evan Cribb has been,
right.
He's been a great place to bounce everything off of. I've been mostly doing the organizing and planning myself, but he has been there every step of the way, talking to me about it and, bouncing ideas around. And when it came to actually registering the society, he took care of redrafting and modifying of the bylaws and that side of things. So when we came to the liquor
Yeah.
permitting, he just was like, I'll take care of that part of it for you, because that's sort of within his wheelhouse. And thankfully, that took a little bit of the heat off my plate. But
Yeah, it's good to have a team. I want to hear more about that. I think, though, before we get any further, I just want to go back maybe a month and a half at this point, because when I think about what you do in the summertime and the jazz festival, you're one of the stalwarts of the Tyrant Jam world. And so maybe we could just take a moment, and I'd love to hear about just how was your festival? What do you remember doing and kinds of fun that you had, and times at Tyrant, anything like that you want to reflect on what you did from that period of time, because you're one of the maybe top 3, 4, 5 people who I really associate with the Tyrant Jams and the late night fun.
Yeah, just these last couple of years now, I've started taking that week off from work so I can kind of hang out and do the jams. I still haven't been able to make every single one yet, and I don't know if I'll ever get there, because the last one's always on a Sunday night and I'm back to work on the Monday.
That's a scary commitment.
It is. Plus, I always feel an obligation to help the bar sales as a patron of these places. And so, a few days into that, by like Tuesday afternoon, I'm usually feeling pretty ready for a break from it for an evening.
We're not as young as we were when we first met, Nick.
No, I always talk about the difference in a hangover from like 28 to 25 was incredible, but then the difference in a hangover from 25 to 33 is just stupid. Like, I don't know how people in their 40s, 50s, and up handle that. Because I'm not looking forward to those days.
Or just sleep on its own as a factor.
Well, yeah. We can always use a little bit more of that. But no, I have a great time doing that. Trying to think here of highlights of... I would actually say a somewhat local project this year from the Jazz Fest was my favorite performance, was the Malleus Trio when they played at Ocean Artworks. They were doing some cool things, and... specifically Dom Conway on the sax there, all of that kind of extended technique and just the things that he focuses on with his practicing and playing are the things that I don't. So it's all outside of my particular brand of playing, but I definitely have an appreciation for just how much work it takes to get so good at all of that. Like I would probably have to spend a good couple of years just to master some of the tricks that he's just kind of barely breathing through.
And he's doing it with a band that he's had with the other two, Geordie Hart and Ben Brown, for several years, and albums and such.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they're really tight together. That was such a good show.
That makes me think, because Kwong Vu was involved in that show, about the Tyrant Tom Werrett trio and Kwong Vu set. That was one of the favorite things I heard at Tyrant.
That one was also incredible. And, just a sidebar on Tom Werrett, we are presenting a show in October at Blue Light Studio featuring him, with Kat Torrin on piano and Nick Bracewell on drums. David Caballero playing the bass. That's going to be part of the Van Jazz Festivals, just to get, some additional promotion sliding through.
Yep, because you have 2 Van Jazz 26 shows announced at Blue Light. That's one of them. And then the other one is with, it sounds like, your Steelhead Sound board member,
that's right,
Evan Cribbs Coercion.
That's right, yeah. We started this, I kind of started the whole society not really just as a place for me and my friends to play, which of course we're going to, because that's what you do, right? Nobody blames Corey Weeds when he plays the cellar.
Nope.
But I kind of just felt for a while that we could use a little bit more of the original music by all the people in town here going on in the scene. Like, we have a lot of gigs that are kind of geared around standards, or it's easy to market a show when it's a local band playing a record or doing a tribute to a certain artist from jazz history, which I get from the show promoter side. I totally get that, because it's just an easier sell to the public. But we have so many amazing artists on this scene, right? So many who write really cool stuff. And so the whole point of this whole Steelhead Sound Production Society, like if you read our byline, our tag, everything we're registered as, is to platform and promote original works by Canadian artists in the jazz and improvised music traditions.
With emphasis on original
works. So the intention with every one of the shows that we're booking is that we're going to be listening to music that was composed by the guys playing it. And so I'm going to be doing some of that stuff myself. I'm hoping we can spread that out to as many people in the community who have their own projects, as long as we can find a suitable room for them. And I just want to foster that. I want to start training audiences to, when they see a band's name, they know that they're going to get something kind of unique, and they start to learn the flavor of what those people are writing and how that's coming out, right?
Yeah. Okay, so as a nonprofit, Steelhead Sound, you got to have a board.
Yes.
You mentioned that Evan Cribb is on your board, I'm presuming with you.
Yep.
Who else is on your board?
We've got Dan Howard as well. Yeah. He's our community liaison, because that MFer knows everybody, right?
Very true.
Yeah, he gets along with everybody. So whenever I need a contact going forward, he's going to be like, hey, do you know this guy? And chances are he'll be able to get me a phone number, right? So we've got him involved. And then a buddy of mine that we actually went to CAP together. I don't know if you remember him. He was never so much in the jazz space. Eric Gross, guitar player.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever really had classes together. He only lasted about a year and a half in it. And he's back in Alberta now. But really good guitar player and a great friend of mine. And of course, I'm trying to look at how I structured this as yes, we're a nonprofit. Yes, we need to have votes on things. But I wanted it to largely be me kind of taking on the burden of all the work. And so I wanted to have people I could trust to basically tell me if I was doing something stupid, first and foremost, but also be willing to just kind of let me run wild with it.
Yeah.
And so friendship is kind of the easiest place to go for those needs.
I'm trying to remember what show it was, but being at Heroes Welcome, and you were there. I was probably doing my usual Heroes Welcome thing, which is sitting by the door front of house and having a pizza resting on that little shelf or little railing and eating my pizza and watching the show
right behind where
from
Murph
there.
used to sit.
Yeah, at Heroes. And I'm pretty sure we chatted one time at Heroes in the past year or two, and that was the first time that I remember you throwing out the concept of Steelhead Sound before you had started doing it.
That might have been sitting at the bar at Frankie's one night.
Frankie's. Oh, okay.
I seem to remember that conversation as well, but I remember a different environment.
So what do you remember about whatever period of time that was when you started to get the idea that you were going to step out and you were going to do it?
Well, so, there's a bit of a longer chain of events on that one. For one thing, I'm terrible at hustling for gigs personally. That's just... there's something about it I find unsavory, and I need to kind of get over myself and just do that, which I will be doing a little bit more of once we've got this off the ground and running a bit better, right? I'll be putting myself out there a little bit more to play. But when Jazz House ended up closing down, we were we kind of lost a bit of a home for those late night Friday hangs. And I was at the time renting and sharing a music space that wasn't really a music space. It's more of an artist space that's right by the Ivanhoe pub in the Ellis building. Atlee King, Atlee, the vibes player, right?
Uh-huh.
He and his girlfriend originally rented that place out together, and she was using it for her tattoo business. And then he would occasionally run little rehearsals in it, and then eventually brought Dan Howard and Andrew Skipasts into it. And then when they ended up leaving and heading to New York, Emilio sort of kind of took up the charge of that place, and there was a few other ones involved. And I tried to use that space to do Friday night jams.
I have been to that space before.
Yeah. And so I was kind of running a Friday jam for a while, but we got into issues with the landlord, and it just kind of got weird. And eventually I just I can't do this anymore. I'm not getting what I'm paying for, and I can't really run this jam session here, which was kind of 90% of the use that I was getting out of it, because I can practice in my apartment, right? I didn't need a studio space.
Yeah.
And then I backed out of that, and Emilio wanted to chat before I did, because he was just having issues with, wrangling everybody and maintaining, and as anything is when you're the one in charge of a bunch of musicians, because a lot of us are bums. Yeah. So anyway, he came over to my place one day, and we were just kind of talking about stuff, and he was saying, well, I'd love to see you gigging more, kind of a thing. And we kind of talked about a few other things, and I mentioned at that point that I was thinking, I had considered trying to book shows as an extra thing on the side. And, he pushed me a little bit. This is Emilio Suarez. I haven't said the last name for those listening. Emilio Suarez.
Yeah, another bass player knows everybody.
And cellist.
Yeah.
And anyway, he kind of pushed me on that one. And so I sat with it for a while, thought and talked about it with people, and, called my parents and went over to talk to good friend of mine, Alex Marr, who's on my record, and I play with as much as I can, and just sort of started talking to everybody. But like, is this insane? Is this nuts? Like, and it took a long time. These things do. Like, yeah, I mean, it took a long time before we actually got anywhere with it. Like a few months before I registered the nonprofit, and that was last summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like even from then until now, like we're between registering and actually putting our first show on, we're like like almost 14 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just been it's been a process, man. It's been a lot of kind of hemming and hawing and thinking and talking and thinking and hemming and hawing and then finally deciding, okay, I'm not going to get any grant funding if I can't prove that I've done something. So let's just put up or shut up and try and get some things going, and then hopefully with a bit of success in the rearview window, I can use that to start getting a bit of grant funding to make up some shortfalls in ticket sales, because I do want to be able to pay people well for gigs, right? Like that's another problem I have with the modern gig scene, is that a lot of them are peanuts.
Lack of guarantees.
Yeah, no guarantees on pay, and even if there is, it's often like a low guarantee of some kind. And again, I get it. The money's not there.
Or the thing is, the places that do pay good guarantees, the booking, if you want to play there, how far away is your show going to be? It's going to be
8 months.
1.5 years.
Oh, sometimes,
potentially, yeah. Some places in this country, yeah.
Yeah, so all of those things are problems that I'm trying to solve. We'll see if I can. Maybe I'm, again, kind of getting a little too big for my britches here before we've even started. But, the dream would be to get to the point of operational funding at some point. But again, that's got to be years from now.
Right.
But any kind of funding I can get in the meantime to help make up any shortfall in ticket sales to help keep people getting paid is where I'm aiming for this. So like once we get into the fall and get a few more series going, I'm going to really seriously start looking at grant applications and seeing what's out there. And
right, because there's a few steps on the ladder, and the first step before you even get on the ladder is like what you did over the past year. It formulated the idea. You have some people, friends who you trust with you, get to the point of putting on your first thing. But then it's like, okay, you got to do stuff. And then that means you start to have a track record. And then you could do some project grants to do more stuff, like Canada Councils of the World or BC Arts Council type things. And then, and only then, you mentioned operational funding. That means multi-year sometimes grants or bigger projects. Often you're not allowed to even apply to those things until you have already won project grants from the same funders.
Quite frequently, that's the case. And more to the point, they want to see that you've got years of success under your belt and that you are, you're serious about this. And I get that. I mean, there's a lot of money that flies into that. And you're looking at that point at like paying salaries beyond, not just kind of, maybe here and there I might get lucky and be able to pull a cut out of a gig, but like that's an actual, like that becomes a job, And so I get why that takes a long time to get to the funding point, right? So definitely project grants is where we're going to be looking for, whatever I can get. I've got a few ideas for kind of more unique series that I'm not going to say on the air because, I don't need anyone aping that stuff.
They're
but
cooking.
If we can, go with something maybe unique and try and get a funding for a series of 8-10 shows or something like that within that, then we just kind of parlay that into the next thing and the next thing, and just I don't know what I'm doing is what I'm trying to tell you, Will. We're gonna figure this out.
You do and you don't at the same time. It's Schrodinger's presenter life.
Yeah, it's a lot of hopes and dreams and no real world experience. That's what we're fighting with right now.
I'm very familiar with that, actually, Nick.
As the guy who set this whole shebang up in Rhythm Changes, I imagine that was a challenge.
Well, I still have this thing, like I was going to ask you about your record too, which I will in a second because you mentioned it, Baby Steps, because I wrote about it at Rhythm Changes.
You did, and I appreciated that.
But I did this radio hit on SFU radio a couple weeks ago at CJSF, and I made a point to say something that I don't usually get to, which is like, I'm not a music journalist. Because what I think being a music journalist means is something similar to like what some people would say. It means to be a jazz musician, which means you come up doing certain kinds of things with certain kinds of people. And if you're a music journalist, that means you come up and you like write for other outlets and you get edited and, you have this relationship as a freelancer with that. And I don't know anything about that. I know some people who do. So that's why I wouldn't put myself out there as that because I feel like I didn't pay those kind of dues, you know? The same
But
way
we're in a
some
different
people
world,
could say it
man.
about musicians, you know?
Journalism has become a bit guerrilla, you know,
Yeah.
because like we've got all our main media corporations that are all kind of owned by the same handful of people, but there's all kinds of weird journalism happening from indie roots, and some of that started from people working in newsrooms. But like I would say, what you're doing, look, if you're sitting there writing and publishing things about music and getting paid to do it, and I know that there is some money that flows your way through all of this kind of stuff, you're a freaking music journalist, man.
One could say, yeah, it's like, it's a funny thing. It's almost like the reason why I don't put it out there is it's almost like if the kind of person you'd expect to fit in the worst at Jazz House or something showed up and introduced themselves as a jazz musician.
Well, I mean, except you're a musician yourself as well, right? We can all wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
I've had to now just
Yes.
adopt a few others myself because it's now just as of this year that we're putting this stuff public, I am now a promoter, which feels
Right.
weird.
And the director of nonprofit.
I'm a president of a nonprofit. I'm a founder of a nonprofit. Like these are all titles that I never would have imagined for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I get where you're coming from, but like own that.
Yeah, that's a good way to tie it back in your thing. I appreciate that. That's cool. I wanted to ask you about your record, though. It's been maybe 2-3 years since it came out. Still holds up as a document of your playing when I checked it out a couple days ago. No one was going to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like any record, right? It's a snapshot of a moment in time. You know? There's some tunes on there that were I to be looking at writing a record again, I would not put on. But that one was, you know, to talk a little bit again about guerrilla stuff, that one was done dirty,
That's right.
quick, cheap, and like Artisher came to me with the idea and I basically had 2 months to write a record. And so some of that is just a matter of desperation of just like you put some tunes down and like a good enough happens a little bit there, right? I mean, it was a long record too, which I don't know why I didn't trim some of that fat, but...
Oh, just in the run time?
Yeah.
What's the total run time?
80 minutes. 9 pieces, 80 minutes.
Ooh, okay, that's actually like taking the better part of a CD.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So, you know, I've got a bunch of tunes where, you know, doing that slow lead up to doing another record. So I will hopefully be trying to get the guys back in the studio over the next couple of years here. But the tunes will be a little bit more thought out, and I'm taking more time before I get there.
That's funny. Both of my studio albums are between like 32 and 36 minutes.
That's much more reasonable. I'm going to try and keep the next one to an hour. Let's not go over 60 minutes, you know?
So I'm actually recording my next album days from now.
Oh.
From when we're talking. I don't know how long it's going to be. There's many things I don't know about it. Talk about not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. So I'll report back.
Do you know the band at least?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I know where. I know the 5 W's. I'm pretty sure those have been set in stone for some time. So the rest of it, we could just see how it goes.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you only know 4 of them if you don't know the what.
Well, the what, there's a lot there, and how much of it is going to survive, right? Like if we try a lot of tunes, how many of them are going to come through?
So you know the what, just not the how much.
Yeah, how much.
I get you.
Yeah, the how, there's a lot I don't know about the how. Yeah, that's
Where
right.
are you recording it?
We're actually going somewhere to do it. It's a place that I've been curious about for probably 10 plus years at this point, going back to my folk band days. It's called the Noise Floor Recording Studio on Gabriola Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and by the time this comes out, I will have done it, so that'll be fun.
Excellent. So that's the hiatus you're taking, that little week-long break I've been seeing in the
exactly,
emails. There you go.
Yep, going to be out there. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, man. I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Does that cross your mind of album 2 at this point, or are you deep into Steelhead sound? You're not thinking about it?
I mean, I'm thinking a little because, like, I mean, that stuff as a musician is always a little on your brain, right? And it's actually kind of funny. We were talking about writing music and albums and all this. Like, I just on Sunday night had a reading session with the band I recorded with. That's Alex Marr, Andrew Ski Pass, Stan Howard. Because I had been in this like ridiculous slump. Just about a year ago, I took a tumble down some stairs and I split my lip open really bad. Like I couldn't play for months. Like it was a long healing process. And then it took a while to get back into playing properly again and building up that strength and moving forward with that. But it was kind of hard, man. And I took a pretty big hit to the creative side, let's say. And I really kind of starting about then, I couldn't really get anything useful out when I sat down at the keyboard to try and write, or I'd pull out the horn and try and play a melody line here or there somewhere. Like, and so over the last year, like I've just been in a slump, like a total slump on it. And again, we'll circle around to it being good to have friends in your corner. And again, to mention Artisher's name, who had, actually just himself had a record release just over a month ago.
That's right. On my employer, Seller Music. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody should check that out. Introducing Artisher. But he and I were hanging out one day, just kind of, because he's going to be doing sound. He's helping out. He's going to be doing the live sound for the Steelhead
on the 29th,
the Summer Run Jazz Fest on the 29th. And so we just, we're hanging out so I could show him the space, and we're talking logistics, like what gear do we need to rent and all this sort of stuff, and, grabbed a bit of food and a couple of beers afterwards. And I say bullied, but I say bullied affectionately. He kind of bullied me into organizing a reading session with my guys and made me put in the message to them that I was bringing 2 new pieces. And so at that point, it was like, well, crap, I'm kind of busy trying to figure out all of this stuff for the festival, but now I've also got 3 weeks that I have to write 2 new pieces of music in after a year of not writing. And, by gum, it worked. I needed the pressure, I guess, to force me into writing music again. So I had a couple of new good tunes come there. And so, like, this last week or so, again, the ideas of an album have been circling a little bit more strongly in my brain, because we're starting to get enough to actually lay down,
You got to focus on your show presentations, and you got big plans there. But yeah, I was curious if Steelhead Sound was going to be a wrapper for any future of your own or your friends' music releases.
Well,
because that's something you can get funding for.
Absolutely, and it's something that I want to do. I mean, like when we start talking about the range of things that we can do with like a production society, which is really what we are, and that's the full name is Steelhead Sound Production Society.
Yeah.
Is it production or presentation? Oh my God. I think it's production. Let's go with production, and I'll double check the tape on that one. Yeah. But it's, I want to be doing some more producing of other things as we go, like kind of taking a page out of Corey's book a bit with the Seller Live side of things. And I would love to be able to help produce records for people and help organize tours and, all of those things that are kind of essential to get funded these days, because it's just, they don't pay enough on their own. And, if I can kind of tap into and get known within some of those grant spaces in the funding communities, then I can maybe leverage that to help, friends and non-friends, but whoever our musicians are on the scene, if they've got a good project that I think would be, within what we're pushing for as a group, I'd love to be able to help organize some of that stuff, right? And so records for not just me, but for, everybody out on the scene, if we can get somewhere, right, and we're pushing some strong creative stuff in there, I would love to organize some of that stuff.
How did you come up with the name Steelhead Sound?
I wish I had a good story.
Well, what is the story?
Well, we don't actually meet the threshold for being an Indigenous-led organization, unfortunately. The numbers on that, you need to have 60% of your board at least.
For you have 4, right? So you'd need 3 out of 4?
We'd need 3 out of 4. We have 1 out of 4, which is, it's just me. It's just me. So we don't meet that threshold, unfortunately, but we were trying to think of ways that we could lean into some of that as just as part of our naming, right, in some way. And, my people are the Red Pheasant Band, and so I was trying to come up with stuff for pheasant, but everything just sounded like you ever watch Letterkenny or any, like they have an insult within the hockey teams on there where they call their people effing pheasants is kind of like a,
Oh yeah.
And every time I would think of the different things with pheasant, I was just coming up with like, this just like sounds like we're insulting, like, it didn't feel anywhere good. But I grew up in the north of BC, right? So this is far away from the Plains Cree, which is where my people are from. And along the Copper River, which is right near town by me, was one of the best spots to go fishing for steelhead, which, of course, are endangered. You can't keep them. But I went out a few times there with my old man, and we would do, just have a great old time. I got a great memory of being way too young and holding a trout rod, just nothing big enough to handle steelhead. Because steelhead are a trout, but they're like salmon. They're big, they're strong, And anyway, I cast this little rainbow trout kind of lake fishing sort of rod out there, and one of these buggers out in the lake grabs it and yanks me directly into the river. And so, I'm thinking about all these things, trying to come up with the Indigenous connection somehow, and I just kind of kept coming back to that waterway and that time I spent with my old man, and it's really not the most connected to my own indigeneity, But at the same time, the name kind of sat with me for a while, and sound has a few different meanings within like bodies of water and within the context of music, and so it just sort of stuck, And eventually, you kind of have to just pick a name and go with it. You can't sit there forever and try and come up with the perfect
exactly
thing.
what I did with Rhythm Changes. I didn't think about it very much at all.
Yeah. And you know what? The audiences and nobody out there really is going to put anywhere near as much thought into it as you or I did trying to name our things.
Yeah.
Like a name is really just a name. It's like when you're trying to put a name on a piece of music you wrote, It's like sometimes you just have to pick something and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's funny connections there. There is a good story at the root of this name. You said there wasn't, but there kind of is.
Well, I suppose. Maybe I can spin a yarn out of nothing, I guess. But it just sort of was. I tried to connect it to my Cree ancestry in some way, and I couldn't come up with anything good. And so this was sort of like a backup, if you will, right?
So your dad is Cree?
No, my mom. My mom. But
Yeah.
my dad likes to fish, right? He grew up fishing Englishman River on the island with his old man, and every time we go up now, we try and sit in his little aluminum skiff and go float around a lake for a little while, and usually don't catch anything because, I'm a terrible angler, and my dad seems to have the luck of not ever picking the right spot to go on the right day, right? So.
So what's your hometown?
Terrace. Same as Tim Reinert, actually.
I was going to bring this up, that you
are
connected to some scene royalty who have common heritage in the north.
That's right. Although don't talk to Tim about it. I tried to talk to him about that once, and he just frowned at me and said, "I'm so sorry."
But the other person, though,
is Sapalo.
Yes,
Sapalo
yes.
Shafuli, who wasn't born there, but he was raised there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few of us.
And you were there how long?
In Terrace?
Yeah.
I left when I was 18 to come down to jazz school.
So from birth until 18, you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did the whole going back in the summer times for a couple of years, and then I was here for a couple of years without really going home. And then I actually, I never even finished my time up at Cap. I just call it the weight of the world took its toll on me.
We have this in common.
Yeah. Which we've talked about in private a few times. But nonetheless, the weight of the world kind of took its toll there, and I ended up having to go lick my wounds and figure out things again. And I was gone for a good 5 years, and in that time, I didn't really play a whole lot, do much of it, but had enough of that after a while, and needed to come back and try being a musician again, right? And sit on this scene and get back in the world that I wanted to be in, right?
So you have two times where you decided to leave there and come down here. Two separate times at two different stages.
Yeah. Although one of them I would hardly think much thought goes into it, because you're kind of bullied as a grade 11 and 12 student in our modern world, especially in the West, that it's you go to university, right? And so I don't know how much of a conscious thought it was to go down. It was just like, I got to go to school somewhere. I like jazz. I like music. Oh, Cap's got a good program. Who's this? Brad Turner, Juno? Okay, cool. Let's check that out.
So you were set on music school from pretty early time in high school. You were really into it.
Yeah.
And you knew that you wanted to go to a music school.
I did.
Yeah.
And then I found out that Cap had a jazz program, and, Vancouver was a lot more doable than anywhere else that has a jazz program, realistically, just because I have some family down here that's, if need be, I could lean on. And my sister was living in the city at the time, and it just made the most sense.
What was it like? What do you remember it feeling like when you came down here for the first time? You started going to Cap and you started living here. What do you remember about that?
Well, what I immediately remember is the almost crushing Big Fish Small Town, or Big Fish Small Pond, realization when I got down here. And this is first day, we're sitting around and a bunch of the musicians are hanging in one of the rooms. We're waiting for whatever the heck is going to happen in there. And so people pull out their instruments and just start jamming, and they're playing a tune. And I didn't know tunes. I could kind of play a blues. I could play blue bossa.
Play whatever your high school played, right?
And
probably.
I had some great music education coming through that town, but our high school band director would pick Kansas City jump tunes for big band charts. We barely played where was the bassy?
We didn't know the standards.
No.
So what was your main also? I think of you as a soprano saxophonist. What was your main horn?
It was tenor.
Yeah.
It was tenor.
Yeah.
Right. And I played alto for a year, but in grade 6, and then in grade 7, our then band director was like, "Our tenor player is moving. Can you play tenor next year?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And then that stuck, and I was hooked. My dad's going to come up a few times apparently through this, but my big introduction to jazz was through him because like there was high school, like junior high jazz programs and things like that up there, but like nobody listened to this stuff. Like it just small town, right? You didn't have access to it. Like I grew up listening to like Linkin Park and Sum 41
Right.
and pop music and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, Canadian Tire. I associate Canadian Tire with my interest in jazz because my dad knew that I was playing saxophone through some of this, and like we talked a little bit about jazz stuff, and like to him, jazz was like Mo Kaufman, right? He didn't have a huge understanding of it, but like he knew some stuff. And anyway, he comes home one day from getting some supplies at Canadian Tire, and if you remember, Canadian Tire used to have CD racks.
Okay, yeah.
And he'd brought with him a John Coltrane gold disc. It was a 2-part compilation. A whole bunch of Coltrane stuff, right? I mean, it had like Blue Train and Giant Steps in Naima. It had Wise One and Crescent, and it had, I think it only had one part from A Love Supreme, but like it had all this stuff, and it had this weird off recording of impressions that never really made it on it to any other albums, and like, just like here you go, here's this introduction to the breadth of Coltrane's career, and I was hooked. I managed to get my hands on another copy of that CD because it was a 2-part thing. So I have 2 of them now, but like the original one that I had is so scratched from being played and used and thrown around by a kid that it barely works anymore.
Yeah.
Right. But like there was a while where I was the only kid in town basically that knew who any of the jazz musicians were. Like we went down to Music Fest Canada, for example, and people would ask, like our adjudicators, like Bob Rabigliati or somebody would ask, like, who are you guys listening to? And my director would be like, okay, nobody say anything, just let Nick answer the damn question, because I was the only guy listening. It's like, oh, Sonny, and I like Dexter, and of course Train, and like, the big ones, because like at that point, that's all you really know.
But this is part of you feeling like the big fish and having the realization that you felt like
Dude,
big fish.
I was
the
only person that knew anything about jazz
Vancouver.
in the town. Absolutely. And so, you sort of get a little big for your britches like that, right? Like I kind of knew how to improvise. I kind of knew a little bit about chord changes, and it was like, oh, okay, well, this note can work within both of these chords kind of a thing, but like that real limited knowledge, right? And then we get down to Vancouver into a jazz school, and all of a sudden these people are like playing, and like they're all supposed to be my same cohort, my same age, and I'm like, oh, I have missed a lot of education that some of these cats have got.
That's really cool in a way too. It becomes
it
cool.
does, and I think it was good for me to have that, because my first couple of years in that program, like I would show up first thing in the morning, and I'd be in the practice room before classes and in between classes and late at night and on
I
the
can
weekends,
confirm this is true that Nick Leffler did this. I saw it. I witnessed.
If I didn't have that kind of kick in the ass and realization of like, oh, you know nothing kind of thing, I don't know that I would have put the same kind of time in, and I'm very grateful for that. I wish I had the time now to practice like that, I tell you.
Who were your first cohort friends? Who were your early and longtime friends that you made?
Well, the big one still being that Eric fellow who you don't remember, Eric Gross, right? He and I kind of just got on, similar interest in like video games and all that kind of stuff, and so we just hang out all the time. There was a Barry sax player named Jennifer Reed who I believe went and finished off the music therapy course. We've kind of lost touch. I don't really know where or what she's doing because I'm terrible at keeping in touch with people and don't pay attention to social media, which makes my own marketing a little bit harder. Right? But we're figuring that out.
Yes.
Aaron Andrada was always fun.
Yep. Dream guest on this show hasn't happened yet. One day I'll get him.
One day. Terrence Truesdale.
I saw him actually Space Elevator.
Well, he pretty much only plays Space Elevator. You talk to him about music now, and like the only thing that he does is Space Elevator, because he just like, I just get to pull a keyboard out and make noise because that's what Mike Allen wants me to do, and more power to him.
Right.
The dude has become almost a scratch golfer in the last couple of years, so that's where all of his time and energy has gone.
Yeah, you need to put it there.
But yeah, still a good friend of mine, and I try my best to keep in touch, as I can. John Nicholson.
Yep.
But so a lot of these people that I'm still friends with and close with are I became closer with later on into the program. A lot of the people that I was sort of more immediate friends with at the beginning were sort of friends of proximity.
Yep.
Took all these classes together. You just hung out a whole bunch, and so you just spent all your time together, right? Like I It's funny, my main kind of closest friends were Jennifer Reed, Eric Gross, and Ben Ferguson. Do you remember Ben?
Yes.
He was a singer.
Yes.
And like, I really, other than Eric, I don't really talk to any of them a whole bunch anymore. And Eric and I barely talk because he's busy being a dad and living his life as he is over there. And it's just what it is when you grow up, right? It's harder to keep touch with people, right? But
did you take to BC, or I keep saying BC, did you take to Vancouver and the big city life once you moved down?
Took a little while. In some ways, I still wish I could just be living in the middle of the woods away from everything. But, there's too many amenities of a city that I like. Like the busyness I could do without, but like the access to food and restaurants and, the arts is, like, you have to be here for it, right? And so I will always be a city guy for the rest of my life now, because those things are worth more to me than the quiet and the solitude.
Hence why it sounds like it was a pretty good and unambiguous decision when you made your second choice to move back down. Yeah. Which it's now been several years.
It was, September 2019 I came back.
Before COVID, yeah.
Yeah. Just in time to start getting my legs under me and start getting out into the scene to have it shut down again. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But then to come out of it and be in this like big era now, because you're of a cohort of people who includes Chris Fraser, the other podcast host on this feed, and others who I've always thought of as, being a couple of years older than me, people who I've always been able to look up to and who I did when I was younger, especially. I think of you guys as like, what's that?
I was just going to ask, are we not the same age, you and I?
I'm a couple years younger than you, and I'll mention that because I remember a time when we played early on in a second, but I just wanted to hit on this theme about the size of the scene, is that I talk to people younger than me, and I tell them about how the time when I was coming up and when I was young, it didn't always feel like there was a lot going on, and it felt like there was not. People were kind of craving more opportunities and they weren't there. Nobody feels like that right now. There are things to improve on always, but I think by and large, people in our community, they feel like there's a lot of places to play and there's a lot of people playing. I think that's different now.
It's a huge improvement. A huge improvement.
The reason why I bring that up with you guys is because we were thinking about this. I mean, I wasn't playing a lot of shows yet. I was watching where you were playing and where Eli and Millie were playing and where Chris was playing, Chris Fraser. And, I was watching the opportunities that are available to you guys. And if I compare that to now, it's obvious to everybody who saw both that there's so much more now. And so I tell the younger people that we kind of felt like it was a little bit of a low time.
Yeah, the only two places that I can really think of from like my college days of where like the learners could go to play was like, there was the Pat's Jam, but it's a jam, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be just what it is, right? There's always going to be room for you as a student at a jam session.
That only got going in 2013 or 14.
That's true, and it wasn't there right away. But like the two that I really remember, one that is still being run by Dr. Jared Burrows, his Presentation House.
Mm-hmm.
He does amazing things there, and I'm still grateful for all of that, as I'm sure many of the CAP students are. And then the other one being, if you remember it, Excite, El Barrio.
Absolutely.
On Hastings Street. That was the other place that, I think it was Jess Toplak was booking that one.
Yep.
And it was kind of, at least in my memory, the only real place that you could play without like a bigger name with you.
Mm-hmm. And there was a cross section of all of us who were teens and 20s and even 30s there too, because you would have people like yourself or like Millie and Eli and their friends, and then you would have like Cole Schmidt or like more experimental people, and they'd be there too.
Like I've seen Evan Arnson play there, right? And when he would come back into town, or like I remember once going and seeing the Jill Townsend Big Band play that room.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
The Jill Townsend Big Band played that one.
That says it all. That would never happen today. No, it'd never have to. There's more places.
Although Tim's new series with the big bands at the American is very similar. in energy to what that was.
That's an interesting comparison. I like that.
So yeah, the scene is doing so well. I think a large part of it, frankly, was COVID. Like, and I use Frankie's as my example for that one all the time, because like pre-COVID, it didn't really matter what day, unless there was like a huge name coming in, like a Peter Bernstein or somebody. I could just walk into Frankie's and grab a seat at the bar for the first set. I didn't have to make a reservation.
It wouldn't
nothing.
be sold out like it often is
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
If you do not book a seat, your second set, you're basically stuck waiting for the second set.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's amazing to see, right? Audiences are like, COVID was a good reminder of so many things. And one of them being that going out and participating in an art scene and checking out music and supporting these people is important and fantastic. It's way better than sitting on your butt at home on the couch listening to a record. As much as I love doing that, I would way rather be in a live venue listening to people, push the boundaries of what they're doing. Like, my favorite thing in a show is listening to mistakes because they're trying something.
It's live.
Yeah. So it's a different scene. You're absolutely right. And Tim does. He's got a lot of the blame for that, if you want to put it in a more negative context. But the guy he's doing amazing work.
Yeah.
And like, what is he up to? 400 shows is the plan, was last year or something, or maybe the 400 was for this year.
If you think about how many there are per month, yeah, it's totally.
I think that's the
like
number
that.
he was pushing for. He's got like 90 something going for the Van Jazz Fest, and he was gracious enough to bring me in to try and put a couple on for that as well. And
yeah,
it's a different world.
You mentioned Prez House.
Yeah,
you got me to play with you there once when I was 18. I played in a band. I'm trying to remember who else was in the band. Yeah, you were a CAP student at the time, and I was just freshly no longer. But I joined you at Prez House. I'll be able to find out maybe somehow who was in the band, but I can't remember right now who else was there.
I don't really remember either.
But I think it was your band. It was like your band as part of an ensemble.
Would it have been Kyle Araki?
Possibly, yeah. That's somebody who I know we've played with before. This is some kind of like combo night, right? Like they still do, right? Like a third or a fourth year combo night.
Oh, yeah. I remember you got roped into helping us out in our combo class, if memory serves, because we were short bass players.
Yes, and I have disclosed this deal on past episodes before. I appreciated that because at the time, this was before there were compass cards. And so I was able to obtain the paper $30 bus passes from a couple of individuals.
Nice.
In exchange for showing up and being a bass player when there weren't that many bass players. And I didn't have anything better to do because I was just a kid and I didn't know what to do. So
yeah. No, I mean, I my memory's so hazy for that. Don't do drugs, kids. I've smoked too much pot, and some of those days are gone. But I have vague memories of that, and I do remember you participating in the combo class with us. I just don't remember what it was. I think it was second year for us.
Okay,
so Lord knows who was in that class with me, but
yeah. Oh, I wonder if I can find that out somehow. That'll be fun.
There's got to be some record somewhere, right?
Well, there's no gig list, that's for sure.
Scroll through the Facebook archives, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was an important place of that era because younger people would get opportunities to play there. It's not like there was a Frankie's After Dark or there was other places where nowadays it's like places where younger musicians play, right?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's another big difference. There's big on the high end, like the example of the Jill Townsend Jazz Orchestra playing at El Barrio's hilarious. And then there's also on the smaller end and the younger end, there's a difference too. It's all different.
Yeah, it is. It is, And in some ways, I don't feel like I even know enough of what's going on with it, right? Like, I look at the gig list every month and try and get out and see shows at least once a week, but, like, there's just so much to see.
Yep. Yeah, that never ends. I feel like that often, too, yeah.
Well, and now, especially as, like, I'm getting into this whole promoting thing, I keep feeling like, there's all these names that I don't really have enough of a picture on of who they are, so I keep feeling like it's almost like I have to do job research by going to shows and checking all these people out, right? Like, there's some great little up-and-comers that are happening now, too, Like, I'm starting to see... one thing that's really nice to see, actually, is that there's, of the younger players, a hell of a lot more women than there were represented.
Absolutely.
By percentage of the cohort from, like, any other generation on the scene. And it's great to see that, right? Fantastic to see. Like that, what's her name? Sadie Koshan?
Yes.
Is that her name on the drums there?
A young star today.
Absolutely starting to show up all over the place. And she can play. It'll be exciting to see where she gets to once a little bit more maturity and time comes through that whole thing, right? Like she's going to be a killer.
Because she shows up everywhere and often, including at Tyrant late nights. I jammed with her this year at Tyrant late night. Yeah.
Yeah, she was there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's cool to see.
Yeah, when people start figuring out when they get into a groove of starting to show up. And that took me a long time. I didn't do it at that age. I only got into that when I started Rhythm Changes. And I had a way to do it. Yeah.
No, I did. I mean, for one, I didn't have the money, right?
Yeah.
Which is always a thing. And I don't know. I was so stuck in the practice room. that I didn't get out enough in those days. Like, I mean, not that there was the same places as we already talked about, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I wish I had, right? Like I just pushed a little harder to be a little bit more present outside of the practice room. But again, try not to have any regrets about that, right? Like I needed that time. I needed those many hours of long tones and B flat major scales, right? Like
I'm thinking back to the Cat View times as well, and I'm thinking about international artists or guests who came and did stuff. Is there any of those in particular that left an impact on you from your years there?
Well, actually, yes. I mean, my North Star, as time went on, I started to learn a little bit more about, the post-Coltrane cats, right? And, one of the best records that's ever been made, Elvin Jones live at the Lighthouse, Gene Perla on bass, and then Steve Grossman and Dave Liebman on the saxophones. And Lieb became like my North Star to this day, still my North Star. Rumors are that he's not doing so well health-wise now, and, all the best to him. I hope things go okay, and if he isn't long for this world, that he goes out peacefully, but absolute master. And he came through. He played with the big band, with A band and Nightcap.
And you were in?
I was in B band.
B band, okay.
But I'd recently gotten the soprano that I'm playing now on, my dad's still mad at me about that because I didn't have the money for it and went and bought it anyway.
And you still have it now? So
I still play it. I still play it. I love that instrument. Anyway, so the big band is playing a bunch of Liebman tunes, of course, and so the lead alto part is on soprano for a lot of them. Why wouldn't it be, right? And to, come back to my good friend, my fellow board member, my lawyer,
talk to my lawyer.
Yeah, that's right. Evan Cribb was the lead alto in the A band at the time. And being stuck playing all these soprano parts, like he just hated that Yamaha soprano that was in the school stores, and he didn't have one of his own. And he knew I had this thing recently, and so he kind of came hat in hand to me one day and was like a little ashamed almost to be asking. It was kind of funny, but he's like, "Hey, look, we got this thing coming. Is there any chance that I can just like borrow it for a week? Like I'll owe you big. I'll buy you a couple of beers, kind of a thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, great, no problem." So I went down to the dress rehearsal day because I wasn't going to miss a second of Lieb in that place. And I'm just sitting in the audience as things are going on, and they start playing their first tune. And like Lieb kind of stops playing, and he's like checking his horn, and he's looking around and all of this kind of stuff. And eventually the band stops, and he's, I guess there was an issue with his, and so somebody rushes it off to Sandro at Masulo Music to go get fixed. And so he's sitting up there with nothing, and he's just like, "Anybody got a horn I can play?" And so there's Evan sitting in the front row of, center of the
with your saxophone,
with my saxophone, and he just like glances down at the horn. He looks at Lieb, he looks at the horn, he looks at me, he looks at the horn and back a few more times, and I'm just sitting there like, "Give it! What are you? Yes!" So he finishes on that. Evan, I run up and grab the student one back, so Evan has something to play for the rest of the rehearsal, and rehearsal ends, and Lieb goes to give the horn back to wherever it goes, and I of course rush up to grab it, and I'm a punk kid. I think I was maybe 20 at that point. And I don't have words, right? I got nothing I can say to him, right? I nothing. Anyway, all I managed to choke out was "Thank you" when he hands it back. He's like, "Nice horn." I'm like, "Thank you." And so anyway, I've still got that horn. It's got Lieb's spit in there somewhere.
It's been blessed.
That's right. So that's my. But there were all kinds of, we had Jason Marsalis come through. We had Claudio Roditi. But again, those are cats from, like, I'm trying to remember who it was when I was the lead alto in A band.
So Ambrose was after, probably.
Yeah. And Randy Brecker was the semester after I left, too. That was he was, I think, the spring semester just after I left, because I only did half of my year in my fourth year, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, there was tons of great people that came through for that, though, right? Mike Murley and Ian Froman. That was a great one. That was a great one. I actually got to take a lesson with Murley, and some of that stuff still sticks with me today, right? Like we talked mainly the whole thing about melody and how you can reinterpret a melody any which way you want, but you don't have to add or remove notes, And it's something that I do still think about a lot. I don't always apply it, but I do still think about it a lot. And it's something that I often notice, too, when I'm hearing other people embellishing melodies, especially when they're a little bit younger and haven't quite found their sound and all of those things, where it's like a melody embellishment just becomes playing so many extra notes that it doesn't really sound like the melody anymore, And so it was something like we spent like basically an hour playing what's that tune?
There will never be
That's the
another
one.
you.
Yeah, there'll be never be another you. So we spent like a good hour just playing the melody for that different ways. But again, not dropping notes, not adding notes, just play the notes of the melody. Right? And so yeah, that one stuck with me too. That was a good one.
I'm guessing that the Liebman thing, which I fished for and didn't tell you that I was directly asking you for that, but you delivered and you went to it straight away, even though I just asked about guests in general. You went to where I was fishing for, which I appreciate. It's got to have been around, 2013, 14, 12, 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be around when it was. Around that time, yeah, I took a couple lessons with people who came to Corey Weeds' Jazz Cellar. Like I remember with John Weber, bass player, and Neil Miner, bass player. I like went to their rooms with my upright bass, and they both kind of told me about how they learned tunes. That was the main thing I was curious about at the time, was how people learn a bunch of tunes. And I ended up finding out that so many of these bass players, it seemed to me like they did it the same way. And Darren Radke as well, I had some lessons with him where he told me about it. And these people, they all just got me to like sing the melody of the tunes while playing the bass, underneath myself.
Yeah.
And you hear the two-part relationship, and then I got a pretty good memory of the tune from doing that, and I love that.
Sure. Like, I mean,
if you can sing while you play, why not?
Yeah, and most of those old Tin Pan Alley tunes, like if you have just a root note and a melody, like you have the harmony. The voice leading in it is so clear that if you've got those two, like you know every extension.
And as a bass player, you can figure out which notes you really want to play based on that, because there'll be the ones that sound good when you're singing over top of them.
Yeah. I might have to take a lesson with you, because to this day I struggle with
see if I can remember that from 10, 15 years ago now. Because that became, the irony of that is it became so little of what I ended up doing, because I ended up playing in a folk rock band and then doing rhythm changes, and now kind of getting into other sounds that aren't really the straight ahead education that I was getting. So I didn't really do that much with it, but I remember enjoying getting that exposure from them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's one other thing that I find funny. Like, I definitely didn't take enough advantage, like I'd mentioned, and you just did, about like taking lessons from these cats when they came through. But like, thinking back, I'm surprised at how many people were either afraid or didn't think that the people would say yes, but like just ask them for a lesson, you know?
Yeah, because maybe they'll say, oh no, I don't have time. Right. This is not how I conceived of it at the time, but this is true. If you're young and you're doing it, this will be true, is even if they say, no, I don't have time right now, you've made a connection with them.
Yeah.
And so you can follow them around sort of. And like next time they come, you can ask them again. They'll probably say yes.
Yes. I took a chance when Seamus Blake was playing at, what was it, the Rickshaw?
The Cellar Infidels co-presentation. We made the record and it's out now. Yeah.
Yes. I went and asked him if I could have a lesson. He's like, I got no time this time, but I'll be back in like April. And then of course I forgot. I got busy with other things and forgot. But like, that's still in the back of my head. I'm gonna get one from him at some point.
And yeah, you have opened the door already. Yeah. I did that with Phil Dwyer, and I think this is what happened. I think he didn't have time the first time, but then he came back and he played at my high school, but like while I was at CapU, or just after, like a couple of years after I graduated, he came back to play, and I got him that time.
Nice.
Because I actually, my band teacher, he got Madeline Elkins and I to come and play with him when he did his workshop at the high school. So we played trio, and then I got my lesson with him at that point, even though the first time I tried he wasn't around, because I already asked him like 2 years before. Yeah.
Any chance you can get, right? And it's, it's hard. Like I mentioned with Lieb, right? I had no words, and like that's just kind of being young, and you kind of got to swallow that and just do it, The first time I ever talked to Seamus Blake, it was when he was playing at the Cellar in 2012 or something. And Steve Caldesad was my private instructor at the time, and he introduced me to Seamus. But like I'm just a punk kid. I barely know anything about music. I don't know how to talk to this guy. And again, it was you're like cool and stuff, But hey, take your chance. take your chance. Like, even if it's awkward for them, like, that's not the end of the world. They're not going to remember that a few years from now, right?
And it's the same thing with any of these kind of endeavors that we go and try now. It's like, I try to remind myself of this. I feel like if I mess something up, nobody will really remember.
No. Nobody's going to remember any of the things that you do, period.
Yeah, good or bad, probably.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, you reviewed my record and you still had to go back and listen to it again to see if it held up. You know?
Yeah.
That was only a couple of years.
It's 3 years ago. And it was recorded in a cool DIY way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, people don't remember you. It's the most freeing thing once you kind of figure that out, is like, just do what you're going to do. It ain't going to matter, right? As long people will remember how they felt. They're not going to remember what happened.
But they'll remember the cool, if there are really cool moments along the way, they will probably remember, if they remember anything, they'll remember the good times.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I am jealous of the people that can seemingly remember like highlights from a show. Like, I'll go home from seeing something incredible, and that night I don't remember what I listened to.
Yeah, I have a funny way of writing about shows that I haven't perfected yet, where sometimes I want to take a lot of notes down. I guess it depends on what it is. And then sometimes I don't, and I want to come back later. I don't know. I don't have a same way I do it all the time. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah, I got no advice for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to. It's always fun to try though, because it's always something different if you go and write about a show after seeing it. There's always different things you could grab onto.
Yeah, maybe I should just start keeping a little journal at home just for my own little exercise with it,
Yeah. Yeah, because the really cool thing is now that I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, that there's, easy to recall, something. If I know that I wrote about that show, I can go back and look at what happened, basically. That's pretty cool.
Fair. But then are you actually remembering it, or is it like you're just reading your words and assuming you remember it?
Maybe sometimes A and sometimes B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's very memorable shows that I feel like shaped Rhythm Changes or shaped me, and not every show is that, but yeah, you write about a bunch of them anyways.
Right?
Yeah, by definition, can't be.
I mean, I've seen some great musicians come through here, and somehow the show just doesn't impact you, right? But like, I saw Wayne Shorter's quartet when he was playing in the Jazz Fest in 13, and that one to this day has left a mark on me. Some people find the music that those guys were playing to be a little heady, but I don't know, man. It just tickled all the right buttons for me.
That's like the show for our generation, jazz-wise, in a lot of ways.
And then last fall as well, when Garzone came through, that show was
played at Tyrant.
I paid for both shows. I'm like, I ain't missing this, right? And I'd love to see Gons come out, man. That's what I want. I gotta get
Jerry Bergonzi.
Yeah, Jerry Bergonzi. We got to get him out here somehow and find some extra time while he's here for me to book a lesson too while we're at it to talk about that again as well.
You did a Steelhead Sound presentation earlier this month at Tyrant. Was this the first Steelhead Sound show?
It was the first thing we produced.
Yeah.
It was the second thing that we'd kind of booked and started planning on. So like the first thing that we really started working on was this Summer on Jazz Fest on the 29th of August here. And the idea was to try and get something going just as a way to get our name out there a little bit more before the actual festival, trying to hope that would do something to boost tickets a little bit, right? And over the years now, Daniel Dirksen at Tyrant Studios has become a good friend of mine. And so when I was thinking about setting up the nonprofit, I went and talked to him too, because
he is
Seven
Tyrants Theater Society is presented. The presentations at Tyrant Studios are presented under nonprofit setup. Yeah.
Yes. So, I just wanted to pick his brain a little bit and chat, and so he's been very supportive of the whole thing. And there was some evening where we were up on the roof of the penthouse where we probably shouldn't have been. I don't think they like us up there anymore, and we're just kind of hanging out. And he mentioned to me, like, look, I've offered this to other friends of mine in the past, but if you ever wanted to do a show here under the Steelhead Sound banner, just as a try and get a little bit more attention on you, then like we can work something out. And so, once we had the end of August show here going, I wanted to follow up with that, and he graciously gave us a couple of available dates. I was trying to rack my brain on bands, and of course the wonderful Andre Lachance is, a huge part of the scene around here. And I love what he does on the guitar and with his quartet, which I feel like doesn't play enough. Like they're like maybe once a year, twice a year.
That is true.
So I was grateful that he wanted to do that and that the rest of the guys were interested. And so yeah, we had Couture Andre Lachance come through playing Tyrant Studios, their 2 sets Friday Night Jazz as, just the usual Tyrant show, but under our banner. And it was fantastic. The guys sounded amazing. We had because Chris Justin's playing the Moog for that. They don't have a bass player, right? And the thing was temperamental, to say the least.
Oh.
It was not working until pretty much downbeat. It was touch and go on whether or not that thing was going to actually play for the night. It was a miracle it got back and working. I'm hoping he's put some time into, because it's like a vintage machine that he's running on that thing too, right? Like I don't know how old it is, but it must be the 70s at least.
That's a cool setup.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't know that you were going to have a new piano at Tyrant for your show.
I was hopeful because there was grumblings and rumors, and like at that point, Dan was really hopeful that it would be in there for Jazz Fest, which of course we know didn't end up working out. But yeah, it was good for Brad to be on that new piano because he sounded great. He sounded fantastic. And that piano sounds amazing.
I haven't been down there to hear it yet, so...
Well, you should check out the new reel that I posted on Instagram just this afternoon. Jimmy James is playing it, and he's going to be playing at our festival as well.
Yeah, which won't be on that piano, but...
It won't be. It'll be on a different Baby Grand, because St. James has one.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else, or any people or things or whatever that you wanted to shout out or point towards before we wrapped here?
No, again, the attention I really want is on Summer Run Jazz Fest. We're trying to push tickets here at the end of the month. It's going to be a fantastic day. We've got 5 bands coming in. We mentioned them already, but Dean Thiessen's Stranger Friends Quartet's going to open us up at 2:00. He's got Winston Minkler on bass, Thad Bailey-Mai, another one of all of them Cap guys with us, right? And then Ben
Parker
on drums. Coming out of that is going to be Chris Fraser leading a trio with David Caballero and Carl DeYoung on drums. They're going on at 3:30. 5:00, I've got Jillian Liebeck. She's going to lead Bernie Arai and Conrad Good, some of the best rhythm section players we've got. Again, Jimmy James, who we just mentioned, he's leading the sextet. This time he's got Dave Robbins playing drums with him.
Yeah.
And, of course, a longtime friend and another Jazz House guy, Brad Pearson's going to be on bass for that. They've got Cam Henderson's going to join them on trombone, Spencer Drody on trumpet, and Connor Lum's saxophone for that one. And, of course, our headliner at 8:00. That's the Brad Turner Quartet, not with Dylan, but with Joe Poole. So Bruno Hubert on piano and again, Andre. And so I'm really grateful for all these guys for coming in and helping with this. We're trying our best to move this as much as we can and get a little bit of money into our bank account so that, as we talked about, the whole point of these grants that I'm going for being to get some money in to help with any shortfalls. I'm hoping that this thing that we do at the end of the month gets a little bit of money in so that if we have, a few less tickets on a couple of shows, we can still make sure everybody gets paid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one last shout to the audience here. If anybody out there knows of a venue around the city that has a decent piano, please let me know. I'm venue hunting. I've got a few places on the hook, but nothing with a good piano. And it's hard to hire some bands when you don't have one of those, right? Make them bring a keyboard. So I am venue hunting actively. If you know things, if you've got a project you want to pitch me, go to steelheadsound.ca. There is a contact page where you can get a message sent through to me. Or if you know me personally or however else, just come say hi, send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, if you got my phone number, send me a text. I'm not going to list it here, but, whatever you can do to get in touch, please do. I'm looking for projects. I'm looking for rooms. I'm looking for feedback. Send what you got.
Yeah, very excited for what's going to happen here and for what it's going to put you in motion to do in the next while to come. So it's been fun to chat with you about it. Thanks.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Rhythm Changes podcast. I never thought I'd be saying this again on this feed, but it's fun to be back in lieu of our host, Chris Fraser, who's still making episodes every now and then. If you're not tapped into the free weekly at Rhythm Changes, become a member for free today at rhythmchanges.ca and you'll get the gig list. If you're in Vancouver or Calgary, you'll be able to follow the events that I'm curating in Vancouver And our man David Lavoie is curating in Calgary. I'll probably talk to you again soon. I don't know when, but I bet I will.